Hello and welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad. A lot to talk about, including the Masters and something you and I strenuously disagree on because, to paraphrase Marie Antoinette, when it comes to baseball, I say let them juice. That and more, but before we get into any of that, as always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who unfortunately discovered YouTube Shorts recently, my dad, Tim.
I just send you good ones that I think you'll be interested in.
So, you send them, good ones you think they are. The problem is you send me every goddamn one you see.
No, I don't send you every one. I really don't send you every one.
Then I hate to see how long you're watching YouTube Shorts.
Folks, have you not seen the time I'm sending these to you?
Late.
You know how long I'm watching these.
So the other day I realized he discovered YouTube Shorts because all of a sudden I get one video at about 9:10. No big deal. I'm up, just got the kids down. Not a problem. And then I get one at 9:15. And then another one at about 9:11. And then I get three in a row. And I say, I see you've discovered YouTube Shorts.
Hey.
And all of a sudden, I keep getting them until 1 a.m. You sent me 50 text messages.
I did not send you 50 texts.
I counted them.
I did not send you 50.
You sent me 50 text messages from 9:10 to 1 a.m. with short videos.
Me all the time. You have no idea how many of those you send me.
Yeah. One every once in a while that I'm like, check this out. This is hilarious. I don't send you 50 in a 4-hour period.
I did not send you 50 in a 4-hour period.
Let me tell you, if you are watching this and you are of my age, do not teach your father how to use YouTube Shorts. It is a dangerous, dangerous situation.
No, it's not.
But what also is dangerous is apparently Tiger Woods playing golf.
Whew. I did send you this article. Did you see what Jason Day said happened to him in the PGA last summer?
Yeah, screw popped out of his leg.
Screw popped through his skin while he was playing.
It's one of the screws that were like used to put his leg back together, right?
Correct, yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, and then I felt so bad for him because I don't know if it was on Saturday or if it was early Sunday. He was in all black, so I'm assuming it was Saturday. I know the pain he was in, having had back surgeries and whatever. He couldn't walk. He was way worse than I've ever been.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
way worse.
At this point, he's been through more surgeries than you have, which boggles the mind.
By far, and he couldn't put any weight on his leg.
No.
At all.
No, he was toast. Well, the worst thing that happens is, and I see this with you all the time, is when it starts to get cold and rainy, you're fine until you have to slow down. As long as you can start in it, you can stay warm in it, but as soon as we stop and you get a chance to relax and your back gets a chance to sit, you can no longer move. You are done now for the next 2 days.
That's because the cold will set into my back, and it literally it's like putting something in a freezer. It doesn't move anymore.
Well, and that's the issue with Tiger now, is he's going to need perfect conditions in order for this to work.
And this weekend was far from perfect conditions. I give the Masters a lot of credit for even getting the thing done on Sunday.
Oh, I 100% agree. But speaking of Sunday, well, let me ask you this before I get into this.
Okay.
Do you think Tiger will ever win another tournament again? I'm not just talking majors. Now, I think he may only play majors going forward. But do you think he ever wins another tournament?
Are we taking the PNC Father-Son Challenge out of it?
We are. So tournaments that count towards his total number. Because he's at 82 right now, tied with Snead for the all-time leader. He's 82. He's tied with Snead.
I thought it was 83 that Snead had.
Okay. 82. So he needs one more in order to break that. And I think that's why he's still playing. He wants to have one more than anybody else.
Well, somebody asked him of his 3 great records, and that being 15 majors, the 82 wins, as you said, or the 142 consecutive cuts made. Just like with Brett Favre, it's all about the longevity. He's most proud of the 142 continuous cuts made. It's over like a 15-year period.
I 100% disagree.
Well, that's what Tiger said. I'm not going to.
Okay, that's great.
Disagree with
Tiger
him.
can say that all he wants, but I guarantee, if put to the test, if he's asked, would you rather have one more major or the consecutive start or the consecutive cuts made, he'll take that one more major. If he can take away the consecutive cuts and have the most majors out of anybody in history, he would trade that in 2 seconds.
Yes, he had it on 18 on his wall growing up. That's a famous story. He wanted to beat Jack Nicklaus's.
Right. It's great to be most proud of because that's the one he already has.
It's very true.
You have to live with that because that is your record you have. There's no guarantee of getting to 83. You're definitely not getting to 18 at this point.
I don't see him.
And he should be proud of his career. He should be proud of that. I'm not saying he shouldn't be.
What's sad is, take out the car accident, he would have been the oldest major winner. He probably would have won at the age 59, like Tom Watson almost did. He would have been there. I don't see how he can win another tournament on that leg if he has to walk 72 holes.
I don't think he has to walk. There's going to be tournaments that are going to give him card exemptions.
I don't think so. He won't count it. In his mind, he won't count it. Because he's all about the tradition. That's why he's stayed in the PGA. Might he take a card in some small tournament? Maybe, but he certainly won't in the majors. They won't let him. And it's going to have to be a very perfect condition for him to even be in contention on Sunday.
Magic can happen. Phil just finished second. So it can definitely happen.
Phil had a nothing to lose situation.
Yeah, so let's go into Sunday now because this is something where I get to say I told you so, which I get to do often with you. But just in general, when it comes to the public, I don't get to do it very often. But I have an I told you so moment because what did I say last week? I said the issue for the live players is not going to be day 1, 2, or 3. It is going to be day 4. Brooks Koepka, 12 under through 3. Well, 3 kind of.
2.5 going into 3.
And then going into 3. But even if you count the end of day 3, he was 11 under.
Correct.
Had the lead. He was 12 under on Saturday. And then in Sunday, he falls back. I think he finished in second. He finished 8 under.
8 under.
And it was all Sunday. It was all that 4th day. Live players are not used to playing 4 days anymore.
And they had to play 30 holes on Sunday. But here's my question, because this was a big issue. I thought the same thing you did when at first blush. But then the whole Patrick Cantlay situation came up and slow play. They were almost a hole slower than they should have been. Even his playing partner, Victor Hovland, started hitting ahead and just playing ahead.
Cantlay and Hovland. Apologies for his incorrect.
Sorry for the Wisconsin pronunciations. Cantlay and Hovland.
Now, I didn't hear about this until you told me about this yesterday. It's recording Tuesday, so you would have told me on Monday. I didn't know about this, but I looked into it, and this is a huge deal. Now, Koepka, I got to give him a lot of credit. He handled this situation very, very well. He was clearly pissed.
But he did not blame it on there.
He didn't.
He just owned it, but he did call it out.
Played. I don't know why they weren't hitting him for time of play. If you haven't heard this or looked into this at all, so Patrick Cantlay was playing so slow, he made his group, which was Cantlay and Hovland, almost a hole behind the other group that was in front of them, which is unheard of. The final group finished an hour after was expected them to finish, and he was playing so slow where Hovland, even though he was in front of Cantlay, was starting to play his shots before Cantlay was even ready to hit the ball.
Wasn't even close. He just said, screw this, I'm playing.
I don't know if this is true, but from what I was reading, Cantlay had the longest final round of any player in the history of majors, and it was all... And normally you don't get to play like that. Normally you don't. I don't know why the Masters was not starting to put the clock on him because he should have been penalized strokes with how long he took.
He should have been on the clock. His play was egregiously slow. I mean, we had to sit there and watch Rahm and Koepka wait and wait and wait and give Rahm credit. He stayed in the moment and he just played through it. But Cantlay should have been penalized, as you said, strokes. And he defended his slow play, saying, hey, I'm trying to do the best I can. That's fine. You weren't going to win this tournament. Play your game and get moving.
You shouldn't be allowed to hurt other people because sitting that long can start to hurt your game. You start to question your thoughts a lot more. You don't have a chance to really get into a groove. And do I think that got into Koepka's head? I don't think that was as much as that fourth day and just playing that extra fourth day. But definitely look at what we talked about with Tiger, right? If you sit longer, you get tighter, and you have a golfer here that's not used to playing on day 4. And if you're not used to playing that long, it's like me in the weight room, right? I'm not used. I do my sets pretty quick, and if I have to wait for a machine or I get talking to somebody, and then all of a sudden I start exercising again, I get stiff pretty quick. My muscles aren't as warm. And you have a guy now who's 100% not used to playing that long, and his muscles are going to get tight.
Well, and you look at Mickelson, who finished 8 under.
Mickelson doesn't count.
He doesn't count, but he played very quickly. He got into a groove, and he started shooting birdies.
Yeah, and for anybody that says, well, Mickelson is the example of why that's not true, of why the fourth day isn't true, Mickelson doesn't count.
No.
Mickelson has been doing this for a very long time.
He knows that course like it's his home course, practically.
Right. He's won several majors and understands what it takes to play 4 days, because that's what he's done, except for a year. Basically, all Mickelson got to do was take a year off. This is no different than who's the old Tom Watson when he came back. He didn't play as many tournaments because he was 69 years old, but he had played 4 days on several tournaments for 30 plus years.
Sure, he had, even in the seniors, he had played 4 rounds in the senior majors.
Mickelson's the same way. Mickelson knew what it was like to prepare for this tournament. He was prepared to do what he needed to do, so Mickelson doesn't count. And he also, by the way, didn't necessarily play great golf the first 2 days.
No, he didn't.
And then all of a sudden kicked it into gear because he got in the flow. Mickelson is one of the greatest golfers of all time. He does not count towards the rest of the field that I'm trying to discuss.
I got it. But it does show when you can play right along and play at a regular pace, how you can get into a groove and go low. And the fact that Cantley held up Rahm might have went even lower had he been able to go ahead and play at a regular pace. I'm not saying Koepka would have beat Rahm, because I just think Rahm was playing out of his head, and he just was on a mission to win that. Not only was it the 35th or 40th anniversary of Seve winning the Masters, it was also Seve Ballesteros' birthday. And being a Spaniard, Seve Ballesteros is every Spaniard's hero.
Yeah, and Rahm was locked in. Rahm is proving to be one of the best golfers in the game today. And if he continues the way he's playing, he and his big old belly are going to be known as one of the greatest golfers of all time.
His caddy said that he could go double digits of majors, and I could see him doing it. He's got the game for it. He is crazy long with the shortest backswing I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, he's locked in a way he wasn't earlier in his career. And I think the announcer said it best, where when he started, he hit, 2 double bogeys? I mean, he didn't start off great. And any of the days, he didn't start off great.
But day 1, he had a double bogey on the first hole.
Right. And you look at years past, that really would have gotten to him and he would have faded. And the fact that he could turn around and be like, listen, it's 1 hole, and treat it like it's just 1 hole and go on and play the rest of it to win the majors. I agree, but you do have Koepka, who just had to play par golf on day 4. That's all he had to do.
Not easy to do when you haven't done it for a long time.
It's not. I'm not one to talk. I can't play par golf from the whites, let alone play par golf from the Masters for a Masters title. But if you're not used to 4 days, I think that had more to do with anything.
The live golf, the Masters handled the whole live situation flawlessly.
And it upset me.
It was interesting on the last day when they were just about to award Rahm the green jacket, and Fred Ridley, who's the chairman of Augusta, thanked the RNA, thanked the USGA, thanked the DP Tour. I think he even thanked the LPGA. He never said a word about live.
Nor will he.
I think Greg Norman was probably going through his TV at that moment in time.
Listen, Greg Norman intentionally was not invited to the live tournament to not have this drama. And that upsets me. The Masters, I'm sorry. And that upsets me beyond belief. I was really looking forward for the drama. Because you had Koepka and Rahm together on the last grouping. You have the face of live, which he's become with the tournaments he's winning. And you have the face of the PGA right now in Rahm. And the announcers could have played that to beautiful drama, and they refused, and it upsets me.
I loved it because it was all about the golf. Greg Norman had no business being at Augusta. He's never won there. He didn't belong there. They didn't need the drama.
Great television.
No.
And it should have remained great television, and I'm upset by it.
It was great television because you had Rahm and Koepka going down without the whole live controversy. I'm glad it wasn't there.
Live controversy makes golf better, and they ignored it, and it bugs me.
Well, I'm glad it did. I was very happy not to see it because I got to focus on some really great golf, and Rahm won, and I'm happy about that. And by the way, I'm also happy that Sam Bennett, the amateur,
that was cool,
who was in the final grouping going into day 2 before they did the second cut. He played unbelievably well. He finished in the top 20. I think he finished at 1 or 2 under. Low amateur for sure. Good for him. It was inspiring to hear his story. And if you haven't heard Sam Bennett's story about what happened with his father and the tattoo on his arm, you need to go and watch it because CBS did a great job telling that story. And Sam Bennett, congratulations. I hope he'll be a great pro.
He will. And it's a Hall of Fame story. And as you know, stories get put in the Hall of Fame. So
we aren't talking football today, and you go there.
It was a great story. The highest ever finished by an amateur, right? One of the highest?
No. Ken Venturi, I think, finished second in the 50s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so before my time.
Yeah.
Not eh.
I mean, in the 50s, you were in your 50s, so.
I love the Masters. It's my favorite weekend of golf in the entire year.
Yeah, I was excited. We ended up going out on Monday. You caddied. I just played.
That's all I could do is caddy because of drunk driving.
And listen, hey, the Masters, to get a little bit away from this for a second, I always love Masters weekend. This is a father and son show, so I think it's important to talk about. Because since I've been a kid, the Masters weekend is always the first round of golf. And I have to say, I really appreciate you because you can't play golf right now. We're going to get you there. We're getting there.
We're getting there.
If I can get you in the gym, which you never go to.
I'm doing yoga.
But we're going to try and get you back on the golf course for at least one more round. But I always appreciate the fact that even the last few years, you haven't been able to go to golf yourself. You're always out there with me, making sure that we're out there playing, and you're helping me along. You're critiquing my game, which annoys the hell out of me.
So bad.
I played well.
You played well.
On Monday. I played pretty well.
You hit a couple drives.
Hit my first 300-yard drive.
You hit your first 300-yard drive. You seem to like that ping driver you picked up.
I do. I hit the 300-yard drive on the absolute wrong hole.
Doesn't matter.
I hit a 300-yard drive finally.
It was about
150
down and then 150 to the right.
It was not. Don't even start with me. It was dead straight. It was a great shot. The problem is
wind.
And the reason I know it was 300 yards is because it was 310 to the water and my ball bounced into the water. So
technically couldn't play it from in the water.
No.
So
I'm counting it anyways.
I know.
But I do always appreciate it. So thank you very much for going with me as always.
I love going to play golf. Even if I can't play, it's fun to just be out there and to watch, and you're getting better, and I think Bobby Jones said it about Nicholas. You hit shots I can't even relate to because I've never been that long.
I just lost my short game completely.
Short game is, well, we can't count the putting because it was
I hit good putts.
It was April greens in Wisconsin.
It was, meaning they were very aerated, which means there were a lot of holes on the green and the ball was bouncing along like a little tumbleweed.
It didn't roll smoothly. It was like you might as well have had a square ball. Because you didn't know where it was going to go.
You didn't. And there were some good putts that I would have liked to have seen if they went in. Knowing my putting skills, they wouldn't have. But I get to pretend that they did because the ball was going this way and then decided to do that. Which is no fun. If I could, I would cheat. In the same way Tatis was called a cheater by a single-A minor league baseball player, Cade McClure, who was facing Tatis in a rehab start from his suspension. Fernando Tatis, as you all know, was suspended for 80 games due to being testing positive for PEDs, which I'm going to get into here in a little bit. But he was suspended, and he's doing a rehab start in a single-A baseball game, and the pitcher, Cade McClure, serves up a home run. Pitches, Tatis hits one. goes on Twitter and say, cheater hits a home run on a rehab assignment during a steroid suspension.
Okay, first thing, kid, until you've spent any time in the show or even AAA, maybe even, keep your mouth shut about somebody who's actually played in the major leagues and played at a very high level.
Yeah, I'm just thinking maybe this guy should start taking steroids because you're in single A, and I'm with you. That's what I've been saying the whole time. If you are not a major league player or have never been a major league player or AA or AAA, you do not have the right to, because this is childish. This is him being upset because somebody hit a home run off of him, and people are excited that Tatis hit a home run.
A major leaguer on a Class A rehab assignment hits a home run off of you, you'll be telling that to your kids.
And you have the balls to go out there and say cheater hits a home run. And then when people give you shit for it, you go back on Twitter and said, man, woke up to some juiced up Padres fans.
Look,
one, that was clever. I'll give him that one. But two, dude, why don't you make it to the show before you start talking?
Because he wanted his moment in fame. I don't know what his deal is. Here's the thing with Tatis. And he got busted for juicing.
He did. He got busted for, what was it here? No, I can't think of the name. There it is. Clostebol is what he was busted for. Clostebol. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Clostebol.
Sure. It's as good as he got busted for something where
it was right.
So, well, here's the deal with this stuff. And this is where I get annoyed with all of this. And this is something that is found in a lot of meat. And here's my issue with people going off on players that get suspended for PED list. You and I would get busted for PEDs. And I hate this called PEDs, performance enhancing drugs, because most of this stuff, like, it can be considered a drug, sure, but it's a supplement. It's a performance enhancing supplement.
I've said it before. For what McGuire had in his locker room, he never should have been suspended or criticized.
No, because
GNC product.
Andro, while suspended now for no reason, all that was a supplement that connected to testosterone in your body to make more. It didn't do anything but that.
No, it's not.
Andro was nothing.
It's not like Barry Bonds, who put a pharmacy in his butt so his head grew, for God's sake.
And listen, so did McGuire, so did Sosa, so did all those guys. But when it comes to the Andro stuff, if you and I were to take Andro, it would do nothing for us.
No.
Because it's just a binding agent for testosterone. If you don't have extra testosterone, it's not going to do anything for you. Why was McGuire taking it? Because he had extra testosterone in his body, so he needed the extra.
Clemens,
but at the time, it was a GNC product.
Right.
And that's all it was.
And it's like taking creatine. It was creatine back in the day. And
you'd be surprised how many people think creatine is a steroid.
No.
Creatine is a supplement that is found naturally in our body. It helps you recover more. Guess what, folks? I take it every single day because it helps me recover faster in the gym. It's nothing. It's something found in red meat. And the issue with what Tatis was suspended for, the clostebol, I think that's how you pronounce it, but it's also found in meat. Because the issue we have, and this is a lot of MLB players are getting suspended for this and are saying they unknowingly ingested it, because it's possible they have. The issue with this drug specifically is it's found in cows. Farmers give it to their farm animals in order to give more meat, and it's a whole different issue. I don't agree with giving
cows hormones,
but this is a hormone that is found in an over-hormoned cow. It can get into the meat and it can affect your body. Now, the chances of that, I get it. Don't yell at me. It's slim, but you don't need a lot to pop on these tests.
It's like lemon. By the way, if you do want to yell at Kyle, make sure you do.
Yeah, let us know in the comments below, and while you're down there, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. But people like you out there, I do. That's what you're here for. People like you out there going after these players for suspensions, like, it's very possible that these guys are getting this without knowing. It's possible they're giving supplements by trainers without knowing that it's on this list or what they're taking.
It's like back in the day when people would eat lemon poppy seed muffins and pop for an opioid. If you're very sensitive to it, you can actually have had that happen.
Correct. And because we don't know, that's the issue with steroids in general. You don't know whose body is going to affect what how. Sometimes steroids have no effects on people at all. You put testosterone in the system, it doesn't do anything. Some people look like Ronnie Coleman and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like you react very differently. And to say that these people are getting popped for slight amounts, because they don't say what it is, right? This is not, I mean, really, we shouldn't even know what Tatis was popped for, because that is
Supposedly
medical information.
Right. It's HIPAA violation. Look, I think Tatis, he was popped. He went and he did his suspension quietly. He never said a word about it. He just did his time. Should be allowed to come back and play and let his career take him where his career takes him.
Yeah, I agree.
He's not, I don't think he'll be a Hall of Fame player, even with the numbers. I said I don't think. I could be wrong. Could be wrong. We'll talk about one short I sent you after we're done with this. But Tatis, to get a shot like that from a kid who's never been in the show, is not even close to it, and probably will never play in big league baseball, it was just such a cheap shot. Even who was so anti-steroids and keep him out of the Hall of Fame and all that, I thought that was a cheap shot.
It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And I have you know me, I believe we should put these people in the Hall of Fame, especially somebody like Roger Clemens, who was a Hall of Famer before steroids was even a conversation.
Okay, you could say that about Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
He was a Hall of Famer before there was even a conversation. I think they all belong in the Hall of Fame.
No, they don't.
I 100% do, because here's the issue, is baseball treats steroids unlike any other sport. People get banned for performance-enhancing substances in football all the time, and nobody talks about it. They serve 4 games and they're gone, and they're back and nobody talks about it.
Huge difference between baseball and football. Football is about monsters playing a game. Baseball, they had the 2 most iconic records in all of sports, and it was ruined by steroids.
It doesn't have to be. That's your best friend Bud Selig's fault for allowing it to be ruined.
He's not my best friend. I've never met the man. He did some things. Look, I will always love Bud Selig for the fact that he brought Milwaukee baseball back.
Congress had no business being in this at all. It didn't have to be the story that it was. It could have just been, yep, we had this in the system. But Bud Selig decided, I want this out of the game, so I'm going to make this the biggest story in the world, and ruined baseball. It is the commissioner's fault that this became what it is now.
No, it's also
the commissioner's fault for ruining baseball.
And you know who fixed it?
It's not the player's fault.
It was not the player's fault, but it was the player's own union guy's fault for not working with Bud Selig when they had a chance. It was a player stepping up and looking at Don Fear at the time. I believe it was Don Fear. Looking at him going, no, these guys should be suspended. We want these drugs out of baseball.
But you don't. Did that. Because here's the thing, performance-enhancing substances, everybody takes them. Because here's the thing, why would you take something that doesn't enhance your performance, especially as a player? Again, you and I would probably get popped on some of these because of vitamins that we take. For you, ephedrine is banned in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I'm asthmatic.
That's used for asthma.
I'm asthmatic.
Why wouldn't you use something on the field that helps you breathe better? Amphetamines, those are for ADHD, right? They're medicines most people in this country have at this point.
I will argue,
especially of my age generation.
I will argue, though, that ephedrine, asthma medication, doesn't help enhance your performance. It makes you jittery, and it makes it almost impossible to hit a ball.
It helps you breathe.
It does help you breathe, but you can't. It also has side effects that really don't help you play baseball. Just telling you.
Mondafil is on this list. I've 100% taken this because I get stuffy noses. And the fact is that Mondafil can be found in some over-the-counter medications. Not as much anymore. It's more prescription. But that used to be a huge over-the-counter thing that you'd take. It was a step above aspirin that would make your nose feel better to help you breathe. I mean, a lot of these things can be found pretty easily. Aromdafinil is found in most sleeping pills. At least small forms of it are found in sleeping pills, especially prescribed sleeping pills.
I don't think any of that. No player should be banned because he took ephedrine.
They are, though.
I understand that. I don't think they should be. I think they should be banned and suspended for taking the hardcore anabolic steroids, hardcore HGH that's going to alter your body and really make you a cheater.
Here's the issue
like
I
a Ryan
have.
Braun, like a Barry Bonds, like
yes,
a Sammy
if you're
Sosa.
taking testosterone supplements, yes, I agree. You're raising your testosterone, and you have to raise it above certain levels. That I get all that, right? Another issue I have is they have all this stuff banned, but as of 2019, they took marijuana off the list. And you cannot for a second tell me that's not a performance-enhancing drug. I have had this argument with a lot of people. And it's 100% a performance enhancing.
My views have changed just by looking at places like Colorado where test scores of kids have gone down since they legalized it. I don't think it should be legalized anymore.
Here's the reason it is a performance enhancing drug, right? Game 7 of the World Series. You are a jittery mess.
Mm-hmm.
Your muscles are as tight as can be as a pitcher because you get to start Game 7 of the World Series and you're nervous. You take any type of THC product, it innately relaxes you. It innately will all of a sudden relax your muscles, and now you get to go out there and hit. Now, if you go out there stoned as can be, no, it's not going to help you that much.
You're having to eat 15 bags of munchies.
Right, but any little bit trace amounts,
Sure,
though, can help you relax in that situation, and you can't sit here for a second and tell me that won't help your performance. I've known people, this was back in high school, but that would go to the gym after using marijuana because it relaxed their muscles and made them perform better.
Look, I chewed tobacco when I was a catcher, mixed it with bubble gum because it gave you a buzz and I didn't have to catch a really hard thrower.
Yeah, which, buzz on. By the way, hearing those stories made me think tobacco was cool, and you quit like it's 2 seconds. I still struggle. So
I never smoked. I chewed.
Right. And
then made the mistake of kissing a girlfriend without using mouthwash. That ended that relationship real quick. Yeah, it was gross. But look, I've got a problem. You know, I had hip resurfacing.
Right.
I used steroids /HGH for 30 days after the surgery.
Correct.
It helped me recover so quickly. And I think doctors should allow people to take those kind of drugs after surgery to recover.
Steroids have gotten a really bad name. And here's the biggest issue I have with people like this guy who decided to make some random comment about it. And he should know better as a baseball player. Because here's the thing. This is also unlike any other sport because there's 164 games. And you are playing double headers. 162, I apologize. You're playing double headers. You're playing day in and day out. You are playing nonstop. And dude, after one day in the gym, I sometimes struggle getting out of bed from playing that hard. And these guys are running around like crazy. And if their performance dips any amount, people are crucifying them. People are going after them nonstop, but yet they take something minor, a performance-enhancing substance, which, again, every single person takes. Viagra is a performance-enhancing substance, not just for that reason, but also it helps your blood flow faster, right? And it helps people a lot when it comes to heart issues.
Sure.
These are all performance-enhancing drugs that people take on a regular basis, and yet we have not me, but a lot of people have the balls to crucify these people for doing this when they have millions of dollars on the line and they have to recover day in and day out. They are playing from broken fingers. They are playing from bruises. You're telling me somebody who gets nailed by a 100-mile-per-hour fastball in the hip shouldn't take anything? And they've banned opiates, and you shouldn't take opiates.
They shouldn't take anything. They should take aspirin or ibuprofen. You'll be fine and put ice on.
I'm not talking about opiates or anything like that. I am talking about substances that can help these people recover faster.
I think they should all be able to take things like creatine. You're the expert on this. You're the one who lives in the weight room, and it's helped you. You know the supplements to take. Creatine being one of them, it helps you recover.
Right.
I've got a problem. Look, Andy Pettit came out and said he used HGH to recover. Mike Golick, Sr., came out and said he used steroids to recover from surgeries and issue he had.
Because it's a permanent solution. You're building up the muscles around that have been destroyed by a knife.
I have a problem specifically, and I know I'm drawing a very fine line here, and that's fine. I have a problem when you're using it to change your body and to really, you're cheating at that point. McGuire, Sosa, Bonds, Braun, they were doing that.
I agree with you. You look at all those people that were using ridiculous amounts, bodybuilder amounts of steroids to get bigger and stronger. That's a different ballgame. You look at something like Andy Pettit. Andy Pettit should 100% be in the Hall of Fame. Andy Pettit used it to recover from his surgery. Alex Rodriguez his body never changed.
Alex got busted using steroids twice, though.
He did.
His body never changed. You're right. And he started in high school because of his coach.
It's trace amounts versus what other people are using. You want these people to be on the field every single day. You want these people to perform at the highest level, but then you get pissed off and start screaming at them when they take something to give them an edge in the game to make themselves better. If you have every single person, we saw this in the 90s, if you have every single person taking something that's going to make them better, everybody's on a level playing field. And no, you're you shouldn't. Number one, it's not healthy for you. You shouldn't take a bunch of testosterone and all of that to do that. You shouldn't be taking Dianabol or whatever else is out there, right? But I have no issues with when you're recovering from surgery and these guys come back from Tommy John and things like that. Why wouldn't you want to build up the muscle around better?
Well, baseball should be working with their doctors, and their doctors should go, look, I am going to prescribe this to help them recover.
But now they're cheaters.
They're not cheaters.
They're labeled as cheaters, and especially when you have a clown like Rob Manfred, who's Bud Selig's little puppet from back in the day. He's not going to bend on that. But where's the players' union saying, which is apparently the strongest union in the country, right?
The one that stepped up and said, get this crap out of here.
But you need to have something to recover faster. There are millions of dollars on the line. You want these stars in the game, but yet as soon as they take something to recover faster, to make themselves better, you all of a sudden go after them and say, well, you're doing something wrong.
I'll give you a classic example of that. Remember the Washington National pitcher? Oh, he was a superstar.
Steven Strasburg?
Strasburg, thank you for reading my mind. He refused to play in the playoffs when they were on a World Series.
That was the Nationals saying they were shutting him down. His agent shut him down. Everybody shut him down.
Hang on. If he would have been allowed to use something to help recover during that time, maybe he would have been available. I disagreed with him.
Correct.
I think you go ahead and play because you don't get he was lucky. He got another chance playing a World Series.
Don't even get me started about people putting clocks on pitchers now.
What?
I am so annoyed by that conversation, but continue.
I'm just saying, Strasburg may have been able to compete if they would have.
He may have.
Monitor it, but they didn't.
People put this blanket steroids over everything and think it's the worst thing in the world, when in fact, these are medicines that help people on a regular basis and can continue to help people. The fact that people your age who are having these major surgeries, hip replacements, elbow replacements, neck surgeries, because you're falling apart, you were an athlete when you were younger, it's going to happen. These other athletes it's going to happen, but there's so much red tape and stringency stemming from a sport that doctors are afraid to prescribe this stuff because of their licenses, and instead are giving people gratuitous amounts of opiates rather than giving them some type of steroid that will help their muscles grow during rehab, and people will be able to walk in their 90s.
Look, you and I have had this conversation. I was on the other side of the opiate epidemic, and it was not a fun ride.
Right.
And it was awful. However, I did have hip resurfacing because I played tennis and I played baseball, but mainly tennis, and my hip wore out. It happened. So
humans were never meant to live this long.
They did a resurfacing. They put a metal ball cup over the ball. They put a metal cup into the socket. So now they just roll there. Recovery time should have been 6, 8, 9 months.
Right.
I decided we're going to help nature along.
Right.
And I got a hold of some stuff. It was a miracle drug. I was playing tennis 3 months later. That hip resurfacing took place in 2014. I was told, as athletic as you are, as active as you are in the last 5 years, we're now on year 9.
Right.
And my resurfacing is still fine.
Right.
Still doing its job. And I attribute that to the fact that I took something to help me recover.
Because you built up the muscle around the joint that was damaged, which helps you survive. It's not going to help with ligaments or anything like that.
No.
But our muscles are meant to do the work. And the issue is, as people get older, that muscle starts to fade away, and all of a sudden you're putting more pressure on the ligaments. And you look at these baseball players, they're putting pressure on their ligaments and muscles all the time. And it's a recovery tool. And we have this huge blanket of steroids around there where it's this terrible thing, when in reality, nothing is terrible if used in the proper manner.
No, it's when you abuse it.
There's a reason this exists. Steroids were created to help polio patients. That's what it's there for, to build up the muscle. Now, bodybuilders got a hold of it, and Arnold Schwarzenegger looked damn good because of it. Yes, there are side effects to all of this stuff, but Viagra was never meant to be what it is. It was meant to be a heart drug that had an interesting side effect, just like every other thing that's out there. Just because people abuse something doesn't mean it shouldn't be used in the right parts of the world.
Look, I took copious amounts of steroids when I was a kid because I was such an asthmatic.
Yeah.
It was awful.
You had to use ephedrine.
If I didn't,
you would have been popped for steroids in baseball.
I would have.
Anybody that takes any type of amphetamines would be popped for steroids in baseball. There's all this stuff out there that's banned that has this bad rap where in the right situations, this can be used correctly, and we're not using things because we're afraid. And it's all because of a sport that nobody else plays, but now it's this whole negative thing because a couple of athletes abused a drug.
Yeah. And ruined two of the most iconic records in all of sports.
It shouldn't have. People reacted poorly to what it was, and rather than researching why they used it, what this is used for, Congress gets in and all of a sudden asks stupid questions to people that shouldn't be answering these questions.
And they were answered in a stupid way. We've talked about this before.
Of course they were, because they're not doctors. They're not there to talk about drugs. You want to talk about that stuff, talk to doctors and why these players would use it. The fact that you called baseball players in front of Congress for something that they had no right to be talking about is a joke.
I'm not arguing that. They were made to be whipping boys put up there. Mark McGwire, we've talked about this. If Mark McGwire would have went up there and just said, look, everybody saw what I was taking. I used it to recover. I bought it at GNC.
Right.
What are we talking about?
Right.
And I'm sorry for using it, but let's just move on.
Why are you apologizing for using something?
Exactly.
Again, it's something that should still be used in the world today. And I think it's a joke that we're talking, especially when it comes to performance-enhancing substances. It's a joke for anybody to sit here and say they shouldn't be taking anything. Then you don't take anything.
Okay.
People of America, you don't take anything. Don't take any vitamins. Don't take any supplements that can help you.
They shouldn't be shooting
any way.
They shouldn't be shooting anabolic steroids, which is going to alter the
conversation.
Body. Yes, it is. But you've been making me cranky about it all freaking week. And not only that, you've been making me cranky about it. You gave me a hard time about putting Bob Uecker on the wall, and you brought up trying to put somebody who doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame in the Hall of Fame. You've made me cranky all week.
You've been cranky all week because I've been right about several conversations all week.
You really
Bob Uecker, I have no issue. You know I love Bob Uecker.
Everybody loves
I just made fun of you because he's a Brewer, and you are no longer a Brewers fan.
No, I will always be a Bob Uecker fan. He's got one of the greatest home run calls of all time.
He does.
He's also one of the best pure baseball announcers the country's ever seen. He is in the top tier with the Vin Scullys of the world.
Yes.
And he never gets the credit for it because everybody thinks he's a comedian.
No arguments here.
He's naturally funny. However, you trying to put a okay pitcher for about 5 years into the Hall of Fame?
Listen.
No.
Here's the thing. Before we get into this, because there's going to be a lot of opinions here.
None of yours will be right.
You let me know what you think in the comments below about steroids in baseball. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. Now, you sitting here telling me that Tim Lincecum shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame is the biggest joke on the face of the earth. Tim Lincecum is one of the greatest pitchers of a generation.
For 5 years.
For 5 years.
That's it.
If you are the greatest player for 5 years in your sport, you are a Hall of Famer.
Your
Baseball Hall of Fame, the way they elect people in is a joke.
I'm not arguing
in the same way the NBA Hall of Fame is a joke for electing everybody.
The Baseball Hall of Fame, it should not just be the writers voting on it. It should be broadcasters at this point as well. And it is I don't agree with how they vote for it.
Tim Lincecum is a two-time Cy Young Award winner.
You're confusing football, where your career is less than 5 years, and baseball. Baseball is you've got to be a dominant player for a decade.
Tim Lincecum is the most dominant pitcher of 5 years. He was a two-time Cy Young Award winner. Then why not sit there and bench him? This is the same conversation. No. This is the same conversation about Steven Strasburg. Because what was the issue with Tim Lincecum? He was smaller, and his joints weren't going to last.
Terrible motion.
He did. But that doesn't change the fact that would Tim Lincecum change his career in any way? Do you really think that? No.
Obviously
he was the greatest pitcher for 5 years. He went 200 innings, and I'm tired of people saying that he shouldn't have. It's the fact that Tim Lincecum broke down, and he shouldn't be punished for that. Sandy Koufax was only good for 5 years, and you think he's God's gift to man.
Sandy Koufax was in the league for over 10 years. Lincecum wasn't.
Lincecum was in the year for 10 years.
He won 110 games. He lost 89. He has a .553 winning percentage.
Look in those 5 years.
Koufax, hold on. Sandy Koufax, 165 and 87, and has a .655 winning percentage. That's a big difference.
Because he ended his career before he fully broke down. Sandy Koufax, don't forget, also missed several starts due to injury.
Sure. The record would have been
used
better.
HGH to recover.
Wasn't illegal at the time.
Oh, okay. Okay. You see where he
hold
stands?
Hold on. Koufax was in almost 400 games. Lincecum was at 278. He didn't even pitch in 300 games.
Right, because he got moved into a reliever role after his body started to break down and was just as dominant and is the reason that the Giants won 2 World Series. He is one of the main people for the reason he won 2 World Series.
Sandy Koufax had a 2.76 ERA. Unbelievable.
It's great.
Lincecum 3.74. He's not a Hall of Famer.
Because of the after his 5 years of dominance. His ERA in his first 5 years was 1. Sub 2. I think it was 1.5 over those 5 years. You take those 5 years against any other pitcher besides Bob Gibson, and it is tops in the league.
Nope.
Yes, it is. He was called a freak for a reason.
He was a freak.
He was one of the greatest pitchers of all time. For 5 years.
5 years. Koufax played for 10, was dominant for over 5 of those. He's one of the most.
You look at Sandy Koufax's games that he played in the seasons he played in. How many full seasons did Sandy Koufax play?
10.
No, full seasons without missing a start.
Well,
maybe 3.
Wait a minute.
Maybe 3.
No, you can't say that because no player goes through a season. As you said, it's a long season. No player goes through any season without missing a start.
Tim Lincecum didn't for 5 years.
Very few.
Tim Lincecum didn't for 5 years. Sandy Koufax missed multiple starts for most of his career due to injury.
And he still had records that were far better than Lincecum.
I'm not saying Sandy Koufax isn't a Hall of Famer. You're arguing with this saying I'm not saying Sandy Koufax is a Hall of Famer. I am saying Sandy Koufax is 100% a Hall of Famer. I am saying Tim Lincecum is just as dominant as Sandy Koufax was in the 5 seasons because if you look at Sandy Koufax, he was great for 5 seasons.
He was
not great for all those years. He was good for 10 years. He was great for 5 and then broke down.
Lincecum had a nice career, a dominant career for the short
Hall of Fame career.
Not a Hall of Fame career. And this is one I want to hear from the fans. If you're a baseball fan, let us know if you think Lincecum should be in the Hall of Fame. Personally, I don't.
Tim Lincecum for 5 years is the most dominant pitcher in baseball history.
If he had been in football and was the dominant player for 5 years, he's a Hall of Famer. This is baseball.
This is a bigger argument, though, and this is what bothers me. Baseball, number one, is ridiculous to get into. Andrew Jones isn't in the Hall of Fame, for Christ's sake, which is a joke in and of itself.
It's the most exclusive Hall of Fame there is. I'm not apologizing for that. I think that's a good thing.
Baseball needs to look at the stars of the game and the people that got people interested in baseball. Tim Lincecum is still remembered to this day as one of the greatest pitchers of all time.
Look,
it puts him in the Hall of Fame. He is standing the test of time.
Baseball needs to get the kids back involved in the game.
2 World Series. How many Hall of Fame pitchers have that in their career?
He played on a very good team at a very dominant time.
Cy Youngs have nothing to do with other players.
Oh, sure they do. Sure they do.
Cy Youngs have nothing to do with other players. That is a pitcher award for a reason.
He wins game. No. Cy Youngs in a large part. Hang on. Cy Youngs are awarded in a large part due to the number of wins you have.
Unless you're King Felix.
Or Mariano Rivera.
Or Raleigh Fingers. Who you're obsessed with. How many wins did he have? How many innings did he pitch? Because his career was definitely longer because he never started.
That's wrong. Raleigh Fingers did start at the beginning of his career.
Tim Lincecum had more complete games.
And Raleigh Fingers pitched at least 2, 3, sometimes up to 5 innings in a game he relieved and came in the next
Tim Lincecum had more complete games and losses in that 5-year span. So...
Well, disagree. I just don't see Lincecum.
Look it up. How many innings did Raleigh Fingers pitch?
You don't want to know the answer to that.
How many innings? Goose Gossage, Raleigh Fingers, Mariano Rivera. How many innings did Mariano Rivera pitch? Because if you break up how dominant Tim Lincecum was versus Mariano Rivera, maybe Tim Lincecum should have been in there, but wait, he had more pitches than one.
Wait a minute. Look, I've said this about Mariano Rivera. He was the greatest one-inning pitcher of all time. I think guys like Goose Gossage and Raleigh Fingers actually had to do more to get there.
Mariano Rivera is the only unanimous elected into Hall of Fame, and Tim Lincecum, I guarantee, pitched more innings than him. But Tim Lincecum, for a 5-year span, is the greatest pitcher of all time. And the fact that you and people in baseball are saying He had the greatest 5-year span of any pitcher in Major League Baseball history.
I'm not saying he wasn't a nice pitcher.
In 5 years, he won Rookie of the Year, 2 Cy Youngs. How many Hall of Famers can say that right now?
Okay, let me ask you this then. Using that argument,
there's Hall of Fame pitchers that didn't win two Cy Youngs.
Chris Bryant a Hall of Famer?
No, he won an MVP and Rookie of the Year, and we're talking pitchers. We're not talking
an MVP in the World Series.
Pitchers are different. He didn't win the MVP in the World Series.
I thought he did.
No. What's his name won it? He didn't win it. He didn't have a very good World Series. Nobody for the Cubs had a very good World Series except for Kyle Schwarber. I mean, in reality, Kyle Schwarber should have been the MVP.
No, in the reality, what's his name? Left field.
Jason Hayward.
He should have been the
except for his 200 batting average in the playoffs.
Without what he
I love Jason Hayward. He's worth every dime. But we're talking pitchers, not players.
Pitchers are different. And I think you've got, because you only pitch once every 5 games, unless you're Ohtani, who I did send
He's the greatest player of all time.
I did send to that short. That was a ridiculous home run.
Ohtani's the greatest player in baseball history. That's a different ballgame. But here's a question for you. Ohtani's been in Major League Baseball for 5 years.
He's not a Hall of Famer yet.
Bull. You're absolutely wrong.
No, he's not.
You are absolutely wrong. He's a Hall of Famer right now.
10 years.
Right now, he's a Hall of Famer.
10 years. If he stopped playing today, he's not in the Hall of Fame. He'd be mentioned.
Bullshit.
His records would be in there. He would not have a plaque.
You are out of your mind.
I'm not.
Right now.
You've got to do it for 10 years.
Tim Lincecum is a Hall of Famer. There are plenty of players out there. I'm just saying, you're putting relievers in the Hall of Fame that are pitching less than Tim Lincecum did.
I'm not arguing.
He shouldn't be punished because he got hurt. I think it's a joke Sean Alexander isn't in the Hall of Fame in the NFL. It's the same concept for me. If you are the greatest player in the sport
for 10 years in baseball,
5 years,
not 5 years,
you are a Hall of Famer.
No, you're not. Not in baseball. Football,
100%.
We're going to have this argument after the show.
Because if there's relievers, there's relievers out there that play for 10 years that pitch less than starting pitch. Well, not anymore, but used to pitch less than starting pitchers do.
Thank you, Craig Counsell. You're right. They're right.
So why should those relievers be in the Hall of Fame, but a starting pitcher who is the best player in baseball, not the best pitcher, the best player in baseball for 5 years, why is he not in the Hall of Fame?
Because he hasn't done it for a long enough period of time.
Over a 5-year stretch, this is enough of a sample size.
No, it's not in baseball. Raleigh Fingers, Goose Gossage, Mariano Rivera, if you're going to talk relievers, all did it for multiples of 10, 15 years.
Less innings pitched than starting pitchers. With less inning pitched than Tim Lincecum. Tim Lincecum pitched 200-plus innings for 5 years. He led the league in strikeouts for 3 years. He won 2 Cy Youngs. He won 2 World Series. He won Rookie of the Year. From the word go, he was starting 200 innings.
He'll never have
Tim
a plaque.
Lincecum is a Hall of Famer, and the fact that he is not in the Hall of Fame is an absolute joke.
Nice career. His records will be in the Hall of Fame, but I don't think he deserves a plaque. He didn't do it for a long enough period of time.
He deserves to have a statue in front of the Giants Stadium.
I'm not arguing that. The Giants should absolutely recognize him.
So the Giants should recognize him with a statue, but it doesn't put you in the Hall of Fame.
If they want to, that's up to the Giants. But Baseball Hall of Fame, no, he does not belong in there. Absolutely not. At least not
What
in
if
my
his
world.
story was better?
We are not bringing Mr. Warner into this. That's
because apparently if his story's good, he gets in.
Sam Bennett's
Tim Lincecum.
Sam Bennett's not in the Hall of Fame for golf.
He should be. His story's great. Tim Lincecum is 100% a Hall of Famer.
No, he's not.
And you let us know what you think in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy the show as much as we enjoy making it. Trust me, this argument will continue. It has been going on for days, and I think this is one that will never end.
No, it
because
won't.
You are wrong.
No, I am right.
But you and I have had an outstanding show. I think it is time for us to call it a day, but we cannot end a conversation without the dad getting the last word, so it is all you.
So I've been cranky all week. One big reason I've been cranky, and by the way,
because the Easter Bunny didn't bring you what you wanted for Easter.
Actually, I did. Chocolate marshmallow eggs and Brock's jelly beans.
Nobody brought me Starburst jelly beans, by the way.
You said you're off of them.
Until Easter, and nobody got them for me. Anyways, I'm stealing your last word.
The woman of the year in my world is Riley Gaines. For those you don't know her, look her up. She's a swimmer. that lost in the NCAA because they let a guy swim against her. Not a trans. He said he was transgendered. He's a guy. He swam on the men's team in the spring, then the women's team in the fall. That's not right. I was there with Title IX. I saw women and girls not being allowed to compete just because they were girls. They were supposed to be in home ec. Title IX changed all that. And even the playing field, you have to have an equal number of men's sports and women's sports. That doesn't mean men should be competing on the women's teams or against the women. You've got to be a biologist. I agree with the Olympic committees. You transition before you're 12, then you can compete. Otherwise, no. You've got to be a biological female to compete. Riley Gaines goes to San Francisco to state her case, which is a legitimate case. She was not even given the medal, wasn't allowed to hold her trophy because they had to have the transgendered guy hold the trophy because of the image of it. She goes to San Francisco and is attacked by transgendered protesters to the point where she was locked in a room for 3 hours, couldn't even get on her plane. I'm allegedly. Sorry. No, she missed her plane. That wasn't allegedly. She was locked in a room. I'm sorry. Title IX is important. Having girls be able to compete is important. And guys shouldn't be allowed to compete against girls at any time. I haven't said anything about this for the entire length of the show since this thing all came into being, but I can't stay quiet anymore. Riley Gaines being attacked was the most insane thing I've ever heard of. All she's doing is saying, let me compete against the women I've competed against and earn my right to get awarded for my hard work. And that guy took it away from her. And she's upset about it, and she should be. I'm done. Told you I was cranky.
Feel better now?
No, because she's still having to fight the fight. Title IX was very important.
Title IX still is very important.
It is. For girls and women to be able to compete against other women. I'm never drinking Bud Light again. I'm never buying another pair of Nike again. That's just another issue.
Well, I don't drink alcohol at all anymore, so I don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
You were actually emotional.
I was. I feel bad for her. I really feel bad for her. Because she's worked really, really hard to get to the highest level in swimming. And to have that taken away by somebody who just decided they were a girl. And when you compete against the men in the spring and then you decide you want to compete against the women in the fall, you're still biologically a male. And he won. I hope he's proud. I don't see how he can look at the trophy, whatever he won, and be happy about it.
And yet people yell at baseball players for getting busted for steroids.
If they change their bodies and take away records that they never should have touched. Hank Aaron's still the all-time home run king, 755.
It's going to be a long conversation, a long night for me, folks. Thank you so much for watching. As always, we really do appreciate you tuning in. This has been Sports Talk with Dad. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.